Really excited about our conversation today. As we get started and people are joining us, we'd love to know who you are and where you're joining us from. There is a 3 buttons up here in your screen. You can use them to rename yourself. And we're here in Calgary, and we'd love to know where you are joining us from. So always love seeing you out here.
I love seeing faces. I know sometimes it's tricky to have your camera on if you're in the middle of something or wherever, but if you're able to and join us that way with your smiling faces, and that's always a bonus for us, for sure.
Yeah, love seeing that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just maybe going to wait 1 more minute for people to join. It's a Friday morning for us here in Calgary, and that's a little bit later out east. But so glad that we're doing this during the day. I think it's sort of one of our first ones that we do this early on, and it's kind of nice.
It is. Normally we're right kind of over this upper hour here in Alberta anyway, around 6 o'clock and later in the day. So thanks for taking the time to join us here this time of day.
Okay, so my name is Lauri, and I am the student support person here at ATMA CENA. And I'll introduce Natalie in a moment. We're going to talk about lots of different things in regard to training and psychedelic-assisted therapy from wherever you are landing in the psychedelic space. And as we end in a few minutes our conversation, we'd love to hear from you. So when the time comes, we'd love for you to unmute yourself and let's have a conversation because we love connecting with you. So, Natalie, what really blows my mind is this transformation that we see here in the clinic. I get the privilege of coming to this space often. And just the care that people experience in this interdisciplinary team and how that's so solid and the communication is so fluid. And actually, I think it was you, Natalie, who we were talking last week, someone who had just landed after their ketamine session.
Yes.
And I think they said something like, oh, I think you guys are onto something.
Yeah, we're onto something here. And it was a beautiful, beautiful experience for that client. Yeah.
I really agree with that. My own journey with psychedelics started actually on the other side, watching my husband go through sort of a bit of a transformation or a transformative experience, if you can say it that way. And then as a social worker and having that background, but having grown up with this, like drugs are bad, say no to drugs, there was a bit of dissonance in that messaging. And so going through ATMA CENA's training a few years ago and then now being here, my role is really supporting people in their path to wherever that takes them. It's great privilege. And then today, I'm going to be your bridge in understanding what's possible in this space. I am privileged to wear many hats, and I serve as a compassionate witness here at the clinic with people in their ketamine journeys. I support students, which is my favorite part, and I help facilitate our in-person trainings, which is also my favorite.
Absolutely.
And so now I'm here with our Director of Education, Natalie. Thank you for being here. And we just want to have a real conversation about what makes this work so powerful and how you can be part of this. So, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Natalie, I know that you have a ton of experience in the psychedelic space and also wear many hats in your role. And can I call you the mastermind behind our trainings? Can I say that?
The mastermind, I have been a part of creating all of these, I guess you call them courses and training opportunities for sure. Yeah.
Mastermind. And I know that you, in the clinic space, you also are quite close to the client and their experience, and you support the facilitators, whether they're nurses, therapists, compassionate witnesses, etc., in their roles to provide that care for clients. Yeah. That's great. And you shared with me that you've sent in over 200 psychedelic altered states sessions.
That's quite a mouthful that you've got there. I think how I would describe that is there's a variety of group. There's some individual. I worked when ATMA CENA originally had a clinic that was had a focus on end-of-life care. And one of those things was offering psilocybin for that existential distress that often comes with end-of-life care. So having the honor of working with Health Canada to provide those opportunities, the Section 56 exemptions, and then walking through that journey with them and their families, what an honor and what a gift to work with families facing that kind of, I guess, terminal illness, and just making amends and coming to terms with life in general.
You know, I can really hear your passion when it comes to psychedelics and end of life and well-being and mental health and vitality, which is actually another really big part of how psychedelics can be transformative.
That's right. That's right.
So I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
I'd love to hear your take. So I know that since you're the mastermind or very instrumental in shaping our training programs, what was your vision when bringing this plan together and this curriculum to life?
So when I think about that, the word mastermind, if I can go there for a second, I think that it's about bringing in and actually collaborating and working together with so many people that are working in this field. I think bringing together different perspectives, different areas of expertise. We have people that their focus is, some of our instructors, their focus really is on research and on what's coming up for them. Dr. Zach out of BC, he's one of our key speakers, and then others who have been doing a lot of research, Dr. Anthony Bossis in the area of palliative care and end of life, and then more on the clinical side where they're actually working within an actual clinic setting. So Mark Hayden, for example, you know, who is executive director of MAPS Canada and now oversees the work at a ketamine clinic in Vancouver. So different perspectives, different from more medical points of view to more therapy points of view. And they don't necessarily all agree with one another. And I love that. When we come into live Q&As with them, having these different perspectives allows for our students to hear from different points of view, and some resonate with you in one way or they don't. But to have that breadth, and I think that that's why bringing all of that in really, really makes a difference.
Yeah, those live Q&As can get juicy, can't they?
They can. And the questions, the people that are coming in, the students, I think that we'll talk a little bit more about community and about connection, but those opportunities to really interact with these rather than just watching a video lecture, which is very informative and helpful in our online courses. But that connection is great.
And you know, speaking of medicines and different uses, I know I get a lot of questions about people who are fascinated by the different medicines, even if they're not regulated at the moment wherever they're living. And I love that we cover a lot of the major psychedelics in our course. So can you walk us through why ATMA CENA chose to cover the broad spectrum of psychedelic medicines and not sort of specialize into one?
Well, I think that there are, I would call it the kind of the three big ones that we have available for the places that there is access to them. Is generally there's access to ketamine, and that's probably the most commonly available option is ketamine and ketamine-assisted therapy in different ways, depending on where you are on this planet. And then also psilocybin and MDMA, and there's a lot of research done in those three areas. And so I think that they're most well known. But I think that there's a lot of value, and we have one of our key instructors that comes in and talks about using iboga or ibogaine. And though we are not able to offer it anymore up until 2017, then it became not able to be used in Canada anymore. Down in Mexico, it is more unregulated and is possible to access that. And so we do have Trevor Miller, who oversees a number of clinics down just south of the border that is able to offer this to vets. And it reaches a different kind of client with maybe deeper needs. So we don't want to dismiss those, though we can talk about and focus on some of the more regulated ones. Having a broader perspective of all these different options, and we do cover them briefly Mostly focusing on those three big ones, though.
Yeah. And interesting about Trevor Miller and Ambioscience, I don't know if you saw, they just published a study on ibogaine and MS and how it can reduce those lesions in the brain. Fascinating.
It's fascinating, and there's more and more people, and especially in the US, for sure, Johns Hopkins and some of the other universities are doing more work with these medicines because there just seems to be beautiful healing that's happening.
Yeah.
Brain trauma, all kinds of things.
That's great. And speaking of Trevor, I know that we have over 25 experts that are part of our course. So what was the thinking or the vision behind having a variety of experts versus the smaller in-house team?
Well, I think there's different perspectives on that. I think that depending on where you're, maybe you have been exploring different education options. For us, as I was mentioning a little earlier, that collaboration, that connection of different viewpoints, of different perspectives, I think really adds to the breadth of what you're going to walk away with. And you may choose, like there are a variety of ways you could do this, working in clinical work, working in, say, maybe you're going to go into research and you want to be a little bit more involved in clinical trials. Maybe that's going to pique your interest in that direction. And I know that there are a number of people who are working in unregulated areas, say in underground work, that also benefit from the knowledge and the skill set. We know that it's happening, and we know that they're out there, and they know that they are reaching a certain population. And so there's different perspectives on all of those areas that are within us. We don't have sort of one, this is how it's done. There isn't any one particular way that it can be done. There's no correct and only way. So bringing that variety of perspectives, I think, is one of our, benefits and maybe golden moments of our program.
Yeah, it's quite
Thank you
easy.
so much. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I love that.
Yeah.
And then something that stands out, speaking of these broad perspectives, is how we really focus on a lot of the scientific research that's happening. And we merge it with some of that traditional wisdom that's so important and really the reason why we're all here, I think, because these medicines have been around for a long time. So can you share a story about this, how this combination of traditional knowledge and research and clinical work has impacted students' understandings of psychedelic therapy?
Oh, I mean, I think if you've done any thinking or even reading or your own experiences, you know that psychedelic medicines and plants have been used for millennia. And typically in ceremonial ways. And some of these plant medicines have very, very deep traditional roots and deep lineage roots. When we're talking about even the psilocybin mushroom, all you have to do is talk to Paul Stamets or you listen to one of his lectures, and you know the deep, long roots that the use of that has been. Ayahuasca, some of these more ceremonial. And I think really understanding the sacredness of what it is to open yourself up to these altered states, having this breadth of experience, but also understanding the science behind it, because I think that that is what captures the imaginations or even the pens of the people who are, you know, working in regulatory and changing designations and, you know, changing how we're able to access these medicines. So that combination, I think, allows for students to have that understanding of how to talk to people who need a little bit more science-based understanding. They want to know why it's working in the body, why it's working in the brain, but then also having this very sacred side and respect for where these medicines have come from. And so I think that that balance really does offer students good things. You mentioned at the beginning, or in a package that we have a wisdom series where we actually have conversations, one with a Taita or an Ayahuasquero in Colombia, who shares his story about how his whole community was transformed by bringing that traditional use of ayahuasca back into his people and into his community, and the utter transformation that happened. And we have another conversation with a Blackfoot elder where he talks about different medicines and different altered states through a variety of other things, like even including moving into sweat lodges. So I think really understanding the sacredness as well as the science a beautiful combination, and I think necessary.
And that connection between head and heart.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
And speaking of people with the pens and the regulations, I wonder, a lot of people are concerned about the evolving legal landscape of psychedelics, especially in Canada. So how does a training, do you think, prepare people to work with a regulatory framework while still honoring the depth of this work?
That is such a great question. I think you mentioned Canada in particular, and we obviously are based here in Canada. I don't know, we have international students that come from around the globe that tap into what we're teaching. And our experience, especially in the clinics that we have here in Canada, are based on the regulatory here. But I think that as you are building your skill set and building your understanding, and even some of the protocols, the different kinds of protocols that are presented in our training, when you move into our ketamine-assisted therapy training program, we really give you a taste of some of the protocols we use in our clinic that are great tools that can be adapted. So all of the principles, all of the, if you want to say, protocols that we are using currently, even with Health Canada, they can direct you in whatever way that you're going to be working with them, with your clients. So I feel like as you are working in whatever area you are, it really is your responsibility, or our students' responsibility, to understand what their locus of regulatory is, if you want to say, and what is good, and or what is I guess a regulate, or what is legal in your area. It really changes and shifts, certainly all over North America and in places in Europe, and Australia. You can check out the website to see where those things are happening and how the regulatory is shifting. If you're curious, the Psychedelic Association of Canada also gives you a sense of what's happening where. There's different ways of tapping into that. But I think having a handle on this, knowing what we're doing, I think it's very applicable to wherever you happen to be.
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning the Psychedelic Association, because part of their vision is psychedelic access for everybody. And that includes some of the government work that they're doing and some of the community work. And that's a really big focus on what we do here, isn't it? I think community is so important, especially as people sometimes work on their own and don't have that community base to talk to others about psychedelics, which can be still a bit of a taboo in some places in Canada. So then this is why I love our self-care Sundays. I know some people call them psychedelic church. Some people don't like church word. But I love how it has that feel of we're coming together once a week, we're coming to talk about self-care, because when I mentioned that on the phone to some of our therapists, I can hear their eyes rolling. Self-care is one of those things that sort of gets talked about over and over and over, about what does it mean and how do you do it, and the person that leads our self-care Sundays, Matthew, he is a beautiful being who has a lot of experience in the yoga world. I think last year he sat in 70 some ayahuasca ceremonies. And then he's there in Peru right now, studying with the Shipibo people to be able to serve at some point. So talking about sort of these community pieces, can you expand a bit more about self-care Sundays and then that small group aspect of our advanced program and how that is community, and maybe even a bit about our in-person training, because this community part, especially when we're apart and doing this online stuff, I think is so valuable and important.
Absolutely. I think that one of our, like when we ask for feedback from students, whether that's in our advanced course or whether that's in our in-person training, a number one thing that comes up is feeling a sense that they belong somewhere, that they have a community of people that they resonate with, that they can have conversations with. And as Lauri was saying, they're often we're working in solo places on our own with a deep passion for this, but really not feeling a support system. And I know we talk about interdisciplinary teams when we're working in our clinics, which is a necessary thing because we need medical people and we need therapeutic people and we need administrative people. And there's a whole team of people that gather around each client that come in our door. But that's what we want for every single therapist, no matter, or practitioner, someone who is offering this, that you have this supportive team in this community. And I think that that's in this course is where those relationships begin. In our small groups that we have, when you enter into our advanced course, we actually place you with people that are in your geographical location so that you could potentially meet in person if you wished, but that you're also on the same time zone when you're trying to connect. And those relationships that are established in that group as you share what's going on with your assignments and you begin to share what kind of work you want to do with one another. We have groups that I just chatted with someone just the other day that they said, yeah, I was in the very first advanced course and we're still meeting. This isn't a year and a half later. We're still meeting on a monthly basis to share what's happening with us. And some of them have actually formed a therapeutic team together to begin to offer this. So I think that is such a key part of why we're doing this community of practice. I think I heard that term. Yeah. That really shifts things for people as they are wanting to be a part of something, wanting to feel like they're supported and connected, and that there's a place also to bring when we are struggling with something, or maybe we've made a mistake, or maybe we've crossed a line, and where do we go for that consultation and that healing and that repair? That can all happen within that too. So I can't talk enough about that. I think it's so important.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, we've had a couple opportunities actually where people have come here in person, have met their group for the first time.
Yes.
Such a beautiful
Yeah, it's true. Yes.
Do you know, when I took my training a few years ago, I took it because I felt a strong calling and there was really not much I could do with it at the time.
Yeah.
But now things are evolving and we're finding new ways to make space for lots of people to access the medicine work, not just clients, but also practitioners, as you said, not only the people with the letters behind their name, but also sound healers and Reiki masters and massage therapists. There is a space for all sorts of practitioners to be involved in this. And that is what really excites me about CoCare. And this is something that we've just sort of launched a few months ago. We're seeing great success. And I wonder if we can paint a clear picture of what it looks like to be part of this CoCare model for graduates of our program.
I think that a lot of people, they're very, very interested in learning about psychedelics, learning about psychedelic-assisted therapy, and they complete these courses or they complete this program, but then they go, now what? And I think that as ATMA CENA has come together and as we've been observing the students that have been emerging from our coursework over the past few years, and seeing how can we now support them as they're moving forward and maybe exploring. So there's a variety of ways to do that. And in the CoCare, there's different tiers depending on what you want your level of involvement to be. Maybe you just want to be referring a client to one of our clinics. We have 4 corporate clinics. We're actually here in Calgary right now in our clinic, where there's a couple of ketamine-assisted therapy sessions happening right now. Like it's all like we're in the thick of it. And then we have Edmonton, and then as I mentioned in Ontario, London and Vaughan. And then we have a growing number of member clinics. Now, because we are accredited within our clinics, we have a system in place to help other clinics get to that stage where they can actually work and offer ketamine-assisted therapy, and then also work with the special access program for MDMA and psilocybin. And so we can help member clinics do that. Now, this is where the CoCare comes in. They can tap into all these different places where they can feel supported. Maybe there's a therapist who has a general therapy practice, but has the occasional client that would like to access something. And so they go, well, I don't want to have my whole practice about this. How can I tap in? And so they can tap into a clinic, can help support that whole process for that client and include the practitioner, no matter what the letters are on that. There's always a way that they can support that, up to actually coming and working within one of these clinics. So there's such a variety of ways. I think we've really tried to open the doors to make our training practical.
Yeah, like I know one of our students is an art therapist actually, and she's able to do the preparation work with the client and the integration work, and then works with our team here in Calgary to be able to offer ketamine as the therapy. She has the opportunity to come and sit with the client as a compassionate witness. And then there's no disruption to her practice. She can offer art therapy and be part of those beautiful pre and post pieces. Indeed.
Very exciting.
And so then, as you're speaking about our clinic network, we'll see. Sometimes I'll speak with people and say about a dozen more clinics will be open in 2025, and it's not like we're decorating and painting and putting pictures up in these clinics. It's more, as you said, people in group practices approaching us to say, we want to offer this the tool. Can you help us with the regulation? Can you help us getting a hold of a prescriber? That could be really difficult, especially in some areas around the country. So it's a big vision.
It is.
Yeah, and I think it's beautiful work. And our CEO, who is a registered nurse, she is also Métis, so I know she's got a big heart for people that living on reserves, and how that's also part of our big vision is to offer that service to people on reserve. So
absolutely. Just recently, close if you're around Calgary and the Siksika Nation, they were able to support them creating that program within their own reserve land. And so using their people to do that, but us supporting. So it is a big vision that we have, and love every piece of it.
Yeah, and I love that people are wondering and they're curious and they want to be part of this. And so I wish we had so much time to talk about all of the stories and the students and the clients and the clinics. I love to have more time to talk about that. But I think if you're here or you're listening to this recording or watching after the fact, I can say that if you're feeling called to this work, it is a really good time to get started. The training takes several months, and so then you're really coming in as a pioneer as we're getting started and expanding this vision that we were just talking about. And know that you're fully supported by our team, by each other, by people who are on the same path as you. And so our CoCare training that we just talked about, CoCare, that involves our intro. We love our intro training, and it's when we talked about the live Q&As, and so we have all this module-based work, and then instructors come in, we ask them juicy questions, and they answer them for us. That was my favorite when I first took the course, because I was a psychedelic baby. I had no idea. And so just to be able to sit in front of someone like Mark Hayden, who has lots of experiences, has written a book, and say, hi, I have a vision for you. It felt very special. And so then in our advance, it's very similar. Modules, live Q&As, the self-care section that we talked about, our small groups and our assignments. And that's it's a 4-month period of training.
That's right.
And then ketamine, we move into the ketamine specific and under clinical guidelines, and that's 3 weeks. And all of these trainings are eligible for CE credits if you're collecting that kind of point.
If you're a point collector, that's where you can get those points.
Yes. And then the wisdom series that you mentioned, that's also included in this big bundle. So we want to have this well-rounded training that has to do with a lot of heady stuff, some heart, spirit, and that we're offering. And so right now we are offering 25% of our course, 25% off of our course. This bundle is $6,000 normally. I'm not good at math, but 25% off of 6,000, 4,500. Thank you so much. This is why I went to social work. So our training is $4,500 from now until the 28th of February. So that's next Friday. And yeah, on our website, we have these third-party apps that often will do 6 months interest-free payments. And so that's really handy. So that's my advice. If you're feeling called to this is a great time to get started. And we're here to support you. And that includes also the access to our instructors and access for life, which some people have a really valued, especially me. I took it a few years ago, and now to have access to all the updates and things that are emerging, so far after the fact. I'm just so happy to have access to that stuff.
As you know, this is constantly evolving. If you follow the shifts and the changes in regulatory, what was happening with MAPS US last year in bringing forward MDMA assisted therapy to the FDA and all of those things, it is constantly changing and growing. And our mandate is to continually update what we're teaching and staying with these shifts and changes for sure.
Really well, yeah. So we're going to soon take your questions. We'd love to hear from you, but is there anything else that you'd like to share before we open it up?
I think the only thing that was sitting on my mind as we were talking about our instructors and interacting with them is that who we've chosen, they're carefully chosen, the ones that we bring in from a variety of perspectives. But what's great about them is it's on the ground. They're working right now in that field on the ground. And so they're just this last week, Mark Hayden keeps coming up here, but that's just because he was in my class just this week with students. And we were talking about a variety of things. And he says, you know what, this is just on my mind right now. And this is what I have been learning and working with within our clinic, like this week. And so that's what I love about this, is that it's not just facts and figures and even just research. It is actually on, like, in the moment, understanding and growth and hearing from these instructors. I think that's probably one of the things that it's alive and it's organic and it's shifting and moving, and you can be a part of that.
Yeah. I love, one time I had the chance to join in and talk to Kim Haxton, who was one of our instructors. And she has a beautiful work and practice that she's doing, and how she's working with First Nations communities in ketamine, which sort of felt dissonant. So I wondered about that, and just to be present with her and being able to listen in and listen to her engage with her students. I think the breadth of knowledge that we have that we present here is invaluable. So now we open it up to you. If you have questions, we'd love to hear your voice. If you don't want to speak it out loud, you can certainly write it in the chat and we can answer those questions for you. And yeah, we're here for that. Another thing that I love about this is when people book calls on my calendar, because I know that I'll get to talk to someone who is deeply passionate about this work, and everybody has a story about how they landed here. And that is my favorite thing to ask people when they call. So even if you don't have questions now, but something arises at some point, I think there's a link in the chat where you can book a call in my calendar. And yeah, I love connecting, love talking about this stuff.
Any questions or comments top of mind? Maybe an experience you've had? Yes.
Sure, Sarah.
Go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, I just want to say hi to everyone here and to you as well, because I'm already on the training program, and I just joined the program this morning. I joined to the other webinar that it was last week, but this one apparently was bundled with that. So basically, when this morning I saw that, oh, I'm signed up for this one as well, so no problem, I will attend to this one. Just want to say that I will always learn in this program in any sessions that I've been attending so far. But just want to say I guess everyone is very new to this. They are just on the path to choose whether attending to this program or not. I just want to say this is for sure is one of the best programs that I have ever been participated in, and I'm learning a lot in this program. So I'm so glad that I chose to be, because I was basically I was shopping around, I can say like that, to choose the best, definitely, because this is a new field in for the therapists like me. We are just pretty new in this field. So I'm so glad that I chose ATMA. So just want to say that it's the best. You definitely will learn a lot, whoever attending to this program. I've been in the introduction, in the ketamine, and hopefully very soon I'll be in the advanced program as well. So definitely I will advise anyone likes to start learning in this field, just you're in the right place. Yeah, just want to say that.
Wow, that's so funny. That's
So much. It shows that that's those are really kind words, and it's exciting to hear from our students that what we're doing is actually resonating. So thank you for sharing that.
Thanks for being.
Yeah,
No problem, no
appreciate
problem.
that.
It's just all true. It's just all true. It's just really my coming from my heart. It's all experience that I have ever had starting from January this course. This is all coming from my heart. So it's all true.
Great.
Thank you, Shasta.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
There's a question here. I'm just going to read this out loud so that if people are listening later to the recording. Good morning, I'm RN here in Edmonton, feeling called to this work. I have some experience administering therapeutic ketamine in hospitals in a psychiatric setting, which is quite limited by AHS. Yes, we actually understand that. Wondering how many clinics ATMA CENA has and how many RNs are currently working in Edmonton with your clinics, aka job prospects. Thanks for your webinar this morning. Oh, thank you for reaching out, Jody. That is excellent. Let's see. We have one clinic in Edmonton currently, and it is active, and we do have RNs that work with us. I would say you could probably just reach out through the website or even just by calling the Edmonton clinic.
And I just gotta say, we love nurses because
Yes, we do.
none of this work in our clinics could be done without our nurses. And so I love when nurses come and talk to us about this and how, actually there was a CTV article that came out sometime last week about how there are so many ketamine clinics now in Edmonton, which we think is great. The more people can have access to these medicines, the better, I think. And especially with nurses, as I mentioned, our CEO is an RN, and we have a very special place for you at ATMA CENA. Not just with with the medical side of things, of course, blood pressure and the injection, etc. But just that compassionate care that I see from every single one of our nurses is just beautiful. Yeah. We do hire nurses all the time. I think right now we're specifically looking for a nurse practitioner in Edmonton. But if you go to atmacena.com/careers, you will see all of the listings that we have all across Canada, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah. So check it out. It always helps to just make that inquiry. That's great. Oh, look, thank you, Steve. Oh, we need to say thank you to Steve, who's in the background, taking care of all the things that are happening in the chat box and letting you in. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate your support. Our interdisciplinary team here for our
My pleasure, guys.
Info session. Yeah. As I stumble over my words here. Yeah, absolutely. I think that for some of you who don't know, ketamine has been used for decades within a medical setting. It was originally created as a general anesthetics and also as a sort of a crisis management for people who are in suicidality, in danger. So it has great uses within the hospital setting. But what we've discovered is that there's such incredible benefit using it for depression, anxiety, even pain, PTSD. When you combine it with therapy in high doses, psychedelic doses, as well as low dose, it's a beautiful medicine within this context. So if you are willing to bring your expertise as a nurse and feeling called to this, boy, this is such a emerging field for sure.
Yeah, even psycholytic, I think, is dosed by a nurse. What about psilocybin? You've been involved in those, psilocybin, MDMA?
Psilocybin and MDMA are offered through the Special Access Program, and those applications are created and I guess submitted by a physician. We can also support that whole process. We have a whole process in place that for those who are struggling, and there is a bit of an application process, and it's typically for people who have tried other things and they're just finding that nothing is working for them. And so this is like an access, an unregulated access or like an exception because it's still a scheduled substance, both psilocybin and MDMA. But we can support that as well. We do those in all of our clinics. So, yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Any other questions here? Oh, it looks like, thank you, Steve, for the careers there. That's really good. That's where you can find out what's happening and always ask for sure.
And I just want to say, since we do have our 2 clinics here in Alberta and 2 in Ontario, we'd love to see you if you're around the area. Jody, if you're in Edmonton, feel free to pop by just to see what a clinic looks like. And I think a lot of people are surprised at how non-clinic-y
That's
it really is. We really take a very intentional about that. And so if you're ever close to one of our clinics, please come say hi. We'd love to see you.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Ah, excellent.
That's great.
Thank you, Jody. That's great. Any other questions from you? You can either unmute or you will comment. Love to hear from you.
Steve, I wonder if you can put in here the the promo code for the 25% off while we're chatting, so people can just directly go and purchase the bundle. Steve's just gonna pop it in the chat, and then you can save it. It's active until the 28th of February.
Absolutely. Sean, thank you for your question here. How can a person access SAP for psilocybin for cancer and end of life? It is through the SAP program, and it can feel a bit daunting when you think about like finding all of the appropriate people, the appropriate processes, and the application. But what we can do is we can actually support that. It is through a physical application that is sent in by a physician on behalf of a patient. But we have done it, and it's like so many times that we do have an ease in that process and can actually support that. What happens is the turnaround time can be very quickly, especially what you're saying for cancer end of life. So if there is some urgency for that, it can turn around more quickly. And it also, if once it's turned around, then there is a whole process of getting it from a regulated source, and we do have access to those sources. So it's something that we're doing, and we would love to help you in that process if that's something you'd like to do.
Yeah.
Any other question you have, Sean, around that? Go ahead.
So what you're saying is you really just need a doctor to assist you, and we can also work with the doctor.
That's right.
That's right.
This patient is in Manitoba. He's just been given a prognosis of 5 years, which may be optimistic. I'm going to tell you that we were actually able to get access, like a MDMA special access program for someone who was diagnosed with Huntington's. His mother had recently passed away, and he had the gene. And though he hadn't shown any symptoms yet, because of the whole process and tried things, the level of distress and anxiety he was feeling, we were able to do that. And I think that if you just want to get that patient or someone who is connected with that patient in touch with us, someone here at ATMA, we could definitely give some direction and some support for helping to begin that process and get the right pieces into place and the right people into place to make that happen. This would be a wonderful thing. You know, one of the things I just want to say this quickly, Dr. Anthony Bosses, who works with palliative care and end of life, and done a lot of research on the benefits of what this does for someone who's facing cancer. A lot of times people only access this at the very end in their, you know, kind of their final days. And he said, this needs to change. And I was just noticing you said a prognosis just now of 5 years. This is the time where we feel almost the highest level of anxiety and uncertainty and distress. This is when we should be accessing it. So what a beautiful thing to even begin this now and say, hey, this would really make a difference in how I actually approach these next few years, however many that might be. What a gift that will be. Does that help you, Sean? Is there any more questions? You just have to unmute.
I just unmuted. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I did unmute.
You are.
You can hear me?
Yep.
Oh, good. All right. This is a fairly young man. He has about a 10-year-old daughter.
Yep.
And he's metastasized from colon cancer to on the lung. and they're just going to be whack-a-mole, take all the cancers off as they can. But when they say 5 years, I know that once it gets into the lungs and it's moving around, it may not be that long. However, I wondered, because he was in Manitoba and you, ATMA, have places, clinics elsewhere, but not in Manitoba, whether he could access your services, if I want to put it that way, and what that would look like. So I could refer him to someone at ATMA, and whom would you suggest that I put him in touch with?
Actually, it's interesting because just yesterday we were talking about a member clinic in Manitoba. So Sean, I'll get you in contact with Vu, and then we can just sort of take it from there.
We'll get you in contact with someone here who can get you connected in. It's not getting an SAP approval is not dependent on being in an ATMA CENA clinic.
Right.
But we do them here, and we do support those, and we can support when you can't access us, like, logistically. So that's all I'm saying, is that we can definitely give you the right tools to work with. Okay.
Thanks a lot. We'll be in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I think before we wrap up, I just want to say that our training does take around 6 months, and then next one coming up is coming up quite quickly. March 4th is when our intro starts. That's a month. Then April is our advanced, and the last call, I think, is end of June, so right at the start of summer. And then our next ketamine is also sometime in June. So if you want to get started now and finish right around the summertime, it's a good idea. And if it's not great timing, you can start in May, and then our next advance is in September. You'll be finished in the beginning of 2026. So if you're thinking of registering, but right now it's too quickly, this 25% off. I don't think we've done 25% off before, but it's only till the 28th, and you can register for courses in the future, not just for the ones right now.
Great.
I just want to say thanks. Thanks you.
You know, we're usually on different computers and talking as we are here, and so to be here where I can actually,
it's lovely,
sense your energy, and it's been really fun today to talk to you, and I hope that this has been really helpful for you too.
Yeah, I would love to chat with you. I think someone's going to book a call today, and I always love connecting. So thanks for being here, and we hope to see you on a course soon.
Yes. All right. Bye-bye. Till next time.